Today, we start with the unit 3 that is called the unit commitment problem. Now, what is called the unit commitment? But before we go for this one, this is your syllabus according to the markout. So first, we need to study the what are the constants are there while you write some program to find out the unit commitment solution. So these are the constants in unit commitment, and among the constants there are few special constants are there, like the spinning reserve, then thermal unit constant, hydro unit constant, then what is called the mass run, then the fuel constant. So after these constants we go for the unit commitment solution methods. Now among according to your syllabus there are two types of solution methods are there. One is called the based on the priority method, and second one is the dynamic programming method. But if the number of units are small, like within 10, suppose you have a power plant where five units are there, and among the 5 units you want to find out the unit commitment problem. So in that time you can go for the this priority based method. But for the more practical way, suppose you want to control 100 units. So among the 100 units, obviously these 100 units are not there in a single power plant. Suppose there are 20 power plants are there, and each power plant having 5 units. So total units become 100. So among the 100 units, if you want to write the unit commitment problem, then this type of priority methods are not preferred. Rather, the more practical solution is called the dynamic programming. Now, apart from this one, so many other solution methods are also there, like using the fuzzy logic, the neural network technique, the artificial intelligence technique, because this is the topic where the researcher can found so many ways to find out the unit commitment problem. Because when you go for the go to the chapter, you'll see that there are so many problems are there to find out the solution. I'll not discuss why, but because that due to this reason, there are so many ways are there to find out the optimum solution in the unit commitment, and all these methods are called heuristic solution. Now, what is called the heuristic solution? What is the meaning of this heuristic? Heuristic solution means it's a more practical way to solve a problem. Okay. Practical way means, suppose this is nothing but if you just think about the normal mathematics, this is a iterative process. So you need to study, you have already studied the iterative method like the Runge-Kutta method, the Lagrangian technique for finding out the most economical generation. So many so many iterative methods are there in the mathematics. But if you want to apply these techniques to find out the unit commitment solution, then it will take much more time. Okay, sometimes it is not possible to run all the program due to the limitations of the computational power. So that's why we need to make some assumption, we need to make some practical way, we consider some of the limits, some of the constant, so that our total number of solution become limited. So it will help to solve the unit commitment problem much faster way if you go for the normal mathematical using the normal mathematical tools. So that's why these are called the heuristic solution. Heuristic means more practical way to solution. And how to go for the heuristic solution? Just to take some assumption. Now, first we have already studied this economic generation. Okay, economic generation and the economic load dispatch. The difference between the economic generation and the economic load dispatch is that in the economic generation, the total load demand is distributed among the different units of the power plant, and the responsibility of the each unit is to generate the total load demand. Means their summation of the generation must meet the total load demand, and this is also called this primary constant or the equality constant. That means our total generation should be equal to our total load demand. But this generation is like ideal thing. We are actually not dispatching this one. So next topic was the economic load dispatch. So in the economic load, what we have studied? We have studied that how the economically generated power based on the economic generation criteria, or in the equal incremental cost basis criteria, how this generated power are connected to the load center. So we are actually now dispatching this power, because without the power used by the load, the generation of the power is useless. So that's why whatever be the power you want to generate, that power must be go to the load center using the underground cables or using the overhead transmission or whatever be the modes are. But this one is called the economic load dispatch. The difference between the economic generation and the economic load dispatch, what are the difference? One difference is that here, when you consider the economic load dispatch, then we must consider the transmission loss, because due to the various reason, the power plants are not situated just beside to your home. If it is situated just beside to your home, then the transmission loss is minimized, or sometimes the transmission loss is nil. But due to several reasons, due to the safety factor, the pollution factor, generally the power plants are situated far away from the load center. So the generated power must be transmitted to the load center through the overhead transmission lines, and overhead transmission line have some this loss. So while you considering the economic load dispatch, then we must consider the transmission loss also. So this was the economic load dispatch and economic generation. So we have studied this one in the first chapter. Now come to the next one. What is called the load curve, or what is called the load duration curve? Load curve is the load variation of a particular area according to the time. Now, if we consider our daily load curve, then among the day, or you can say within 24 hours, how the load is actually varying. And we know that there is a peak load, there is a base load. So generally we see that if we study the load curve, maximum time the area is actually demanding the base load. In some times of the day, it actually demand the peak load. So that means peak load is the maximum amount of load demanded by the load center, but the duration is small. So that means maximum time the power plant is need to be generate the base load. So suppose in a power plant we have n units. Am I connected?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
Yes,
you can hear me. You can hear me clearly.
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Okay. So suppose in a power plant we have n units. Now, okay, 1 minute. This one I just installed today. How to annotate a PDF file. So I don't know what is this one is. Okay, now it is correct. So suppose in a power plant there are total n number of units, and these n number of units are very efficient, and each units have a maximum generating capacity 50% more than the maximum demand. So that means in a particular day, if the demand is say base load very suppose the 20% of the maximum demand, or say 30% of the maximum demand, so that means we can see that in number of units maximum time of the day they are actually generating very low amount of power, because suppose the maximum demand is 1200 megawatt, but say the base load is 300 megawatt only. So we have installed so many efficient unit, and we have spent so much money to buy all these things, but we can see that in a day the units are actually generating this 300 megawatt rather than this 1200 megawatt. So the efficiency of the unit are not utilized properly, and when the efficiency is not utilized properly, they are not economical. So that's why it is better that to run rather to run all the units, we must shut down some of the units. Suppose we have 5 units, and among the 5 units, 2 units are sufficient to generate the 1200 megawatt. So that means why should we run 5 units for all the times of the day? We can switch up 3 units, we can switch up 4 units, we can switch up 3 units to meet the base load demand, because maximum time of the day we have the base load. When it is required to generate more amount of electricity, then all the 5 units may connected to the system, but it is not required all the times of the day, maximum time of the day. So the unit commitment problem starts here. So unit commitment problem is actually beyond the economic load dispatch. Beyond the economic load dispatch, first it will come the unit commitment problem. After the unit commitment problem, then we go for the economic load dispatch. That's why writing the 1 and 2. 1 and 2 is the priority order. First, we must go for the unit commitment problem. Then after solving the unit commitment problem, the committed unit must run the economic load dispatch to generate the power economically. You got this one? Means what is the meaning of this kind of thing?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is called the unit commitment problem. Now, why this unit commitment problem is so much critical? Because when you go for, where is my pen now? So when you go, study all these things, when you find out the constants of all these things, then you see that the main problem of the unit commitment is the dimensionality. Dimensionality means here, if we, first we just show you one sample example. So here you see, this is a simple power plant. Very simple power plant. How many units are there? Only 2 units are there. This is the unit 1. This is the unit 2. This is the characteristics of the unit 1. This is the characteristics of the unit 2. You can see this is actually the alpha, beta, gamma. This is the alpha. This is the beta. This is the gamma. Or you can say this is ABC in some of the books. This one is actually depend upon the fixed cost of the power plant of this particular unit. This one is depend upon the generation, and this one is depend upon the losses. So these are actually the constants. So this is the characteristics, and this is the limit. Generation of the unit 1 can generate 100 megawatt to 600 megawatt. So this is the lower limit, this is the upper limit of the generator. Similarly, the unit 2 can generate maximum 800 megawatt, minimum 75 megawatt. So how we commit the units for a load? How to come if the load demand is 600 megawatt, then what are the unit committed to this one? Because you see that if the demand is more than 800 megawatt, then obviously it is not possible for the unit 2 to generate more than 800 megawatt economically. So in that time, if the load demand is more than 800 megawatt, then all the unit means unit 1 and unit 2 must generate. Why? Because it is not possible for the unit 1 to generate more than 800 megawatt because its limit is 600 megawatt and it is also not possible for the unit 2 to generate more than 800 megawatt whose limit is also 800 megawatt. So that means it is very clear to understand that if the generator, if the demand is more than 800 megawatt, then unit 1 and unit 2 must commit. Okay, so before we go for this one, what is the meaning of this commit? Commit means in digital it is 1 and decommit means 0. It is actually meaning when we say a unit is committed, that means this unit is actually generating the power. And when we say the unit is decommitted, that means it is shut down. Got it? This is the meaning of the term commit. So that's why it's a digital type of thing. Commit means 1 or on, decommit means 0 or off. So if the load demand is 600 megawatt, so this is not a problem. If the load demand is more than 800 megawatt, all the units are generated. All the unit must generate using the economic load dispatch criteria. So we doesn't need to run the unit commitment problem if the load demand is more than 600 or the 800 megawatt. But if the load demand is equal to say 500 megawatt, then what should we do? Because you see that this 500 megawatt can be generated unit 1 alone because it is within the limit. So that means this 500 megawatt can be generated using the unit 1 alone as well as unit 2 alone. So should we run all the units? Should unit 1 should generate the 500 megawatt, or should unit 2 generate the 500 megawatt, or both the units are generating the 500 megawatt? So this we'll call the unit commitment problem. And here a table is that, 1 minute please, this one. So if the number of generator is only 2, like in the previous example, here you see n means the number of number of units in a power plant, or you can say the number of alternators installed in a particular power plant. So here you see, if the number of unit is only 2, meaning are only 2, then you see these are the equations actually. These are the equation for 24 hours only. This is for a daily basis. So if the time period is 24 hours, so we need to solve 2.82 into 10 to the power 11 equations to find out the unit commitment problem. Now you see why you call the unit commitment problem is much more critical compared to the other this methods. In this one doesn't need to know how this value is coming. Just see if the number of generators is only two. Very simple example. Then also we need to solve 2.82 into 10 to the power 11 number of simultaneous equation to find out the optimum unit commitment problem. So is it possible? So obviously it is possible for a supercomputer or a very powerful computer using a very good software code, but it will definitely take times, because whatever be the computers are, it will take some finite time to solve the equation. And here you see how much number of equations are there. 2.82 into 10 to the power 11 number of equations are there. So that means too much time is required, and within this time everything is changed. Means the load demand will change, the other quantities is also change, like this one. So that means it is not possible if we go for the normal mathematical techniques. So that's why heuristic method should be applied here. Means we need to take some assumption, we need to take some, obviously based on some rules, then some limitations are there. So it will just drastically, it will decrease the number of equation, and that finite number of equation can be easily solved using the software. So here you see, if the number of units are 10, obviously possible. Then you see 1.73 into 10 to the power 72 number of equations are there. We need to solve to find out the most optimum solution for the unit commitment. But obviously it is not possible. So that's why we should not go for the most economical solution for the unit commitment problem. We have to consider, we have to sacrifice something, because if we don't want to sacrifice, then you need to solve this one. So obviously you need to take some methods to assumption. We drastically reduce this number, and that can be solved. So then the price variation is little bit different. So we can agree with this one. Okay. So that is called the unit commitment problem. Okay. Here it is also written. Look from here. Thus, along with the economic dispatch coordination equation used to determine the load distribution between units that are running, it is important in the first place to determine the units which have to operate to minimize the fuel cost. This is actually the definition of unit commitment problem. And this unit commitment problem exists in the real world. Why? Because the load demand is generally very low, or you can say the base load demands are persists for long time compared to the peak load demand. If every time peak load demand is there, then it doesn't go for the unit commitment problem, because peak load, all the unit must contribute something to meet the load demand. But the problem is that maximum time in a day, suppose 80% time of the day or the 70% time of the day, there is a base load. And to meet the base load, we should not run all the units, because this is not economical. Okay. And so we must shut down some of the units. So the rule based on which unit will commit, or which unit will on, which unit will off, is called the unit commitment problem. And what is the difference between unit commitment and the economic generation? In case of economic generation, we generally consider that how the total load demand is shared between the committed units. This is called the definition of the economic generation. Again, I'm saying the definition of the economic generation based on the unit commitment. When you just heard the term unit commitment, it is actually the methods or the way how the total load can be shared between different units, or not the bit different. How the total load can be shared between the committed units in a power plant. This is called the economic load dispatch problem. And unit commitment gives us which unit generate to meet the load demand and which unit must shut down in that period. Okay. So that was the introduction. Now coming to this one. As I mentioned that we have to assume something to solve the unit commitment problem more practical way quickly. So these are the things we must assume before we go for the unit commitment problem. First one is that the load is not affected by adding or removing units. What is the meaning of this one? The load is not affected by adding or removing units. It means that whatever be the load demands are, if we install some of the units or if we just switch on some of the units, then the load demand will not increase, means the generation will not increase suddenly. Okay, there is a way that is called the reserving thing. Reserving thing means the units are actually connected to this one, but they are actually not supplying the power to the load. Okay, they are actually keep it a reserve. So similarly, when we removing the unit, it will not hamper the load demand or it will not hamper the frequency of these things. So this is one assumption. Second one, the net interchange will not vary when units are added or removed. Okay, interchange means what? Interchange means, suppose this is our unit 1. Okay, this is our unit 2, and they are connected by tie lines. Because in the 6th semester I studied this one, I have taught this one, what is called the tie line. Tie line is actually a line connected between the different generating units to increase the reliability of the supply. Now suppose this one is load demand. Okay, this is the, suppose this is PD1 and this is a PD2. Now say sometimes if this unit is not able to generate due to some of the accident, then what happened? Then power can be transmitted and the tie line is not actually connected properly. So then the power can be transmitted from the unit 1 through this tie line. Okay, and here it is meaning, here the meaning of the second point is that net interchange. So this one is called the interchanging power, the power which is connected or which is interchanged between the different units in a power plant to meet the load demand. So the net interchange will not vary when units are added or removed. So this one always remain constant. Next one, the unit fuel cost are composed of starting cost, no load spinning cost and loading cost. So here fuel cost means not only the fuel which is used to generate the electricity or which is used to burn the water to make it superheated stream. Here the fuel cost means it is the composed of starting cost, no load spinning cost. Spinning means some reserve power should be there to meet the load demand during the certain accidents. So this is called the reserve cost and cost of the loading cost. Loading cost means when some of the loads are connected to that unit, then the additional cost we must include it in the fuel cost. And the last one is all units running at any moment in time are always in economical dispatch. Okay, so that means this economical dispatch and these unit commitments are very related. If only one unit is generating the electricity, then the generation is equal to the load demand. That is, no economical dispatch is required, no unit commitment is required. But if more than one units are generating to meet the load demand, then the generation of these two units must go through the economic dispatch. Now come to the problem. Up to this, you can see the unit commitment is a very easy problem. So why not we go for the solution? But before we go for the solution, we must know that what should be the issues are there while we find out the unit commitment problem. Because only in the power system, only this unit commitment problem, we go for the heuristic solution. Heuristic solution is a modified solution. We are not going for the actual way. We are going for the modified way. Why? First one is that these are the issues. So hourly demand for next 24 hours. This must be known while you running for the unit commitment problem. Okay, generally the unit commitment problem is run in a daily basis. Sometimes it is called for the monthly basis, yearly basis. Generally we can go for the theoretical way that we can solve the unit commitment problem in the yearly basis, but generally it is done for the daily basis, means within a time span of 24 hours. Then second one is the number of hours the unit has already been running. So starting from a reference point, how much time the unit is already running and generating the electricity, this idea or this information must be needed while you go for the unit commitment problem. Next one is the availability of the unit for a part or whole of the scheduled time. Okay. That means suppose unit 1 is very efficient. But we cannot run unit 1 for the whole time. We have to schedule on off schedule. So that means when it is available or when it is not available, that information must be known by the programmer. Generally this thing is applicable for the hydropower. Suppose when there are two power plant, one is the thermal power plant, one is the hydropower plant, then what happened? What is the running cost of the hydropower plant? What is the running cost of the hydropower plant? Anybody? Vikramjit, what is the running cost of the hydropower plant?
Only the turbine operating cost.
Yes, that means it is very, very low compared to the thermal plant. Sometimes we neglect it. For the lower amount of hydropower plant, we can neglect because the variation is huge. Whatever be the running cost of a thermal power plant, the running cost of the hydropower plant is very, very low compared to that one. So we want that all the load demand must be satisfied by the hydropower plant when the options are there. But it is not possible due to the limits of the hydropower plant, because generally the hydropower plant are generating very high electricity compared to the thermal power plant. So that's why sometime we need to switch on this one. So that means when you schedule that one, means when the hydro and thermal power plants are switch on and switch off to meet the load demand. Suppose after the solution you get that during the summer the hydropower plant must generate, but it is not possible because during the summer the water crisis may be there and the water head the height of the water is getting down, so that means the pressure will not be there. So in the summer it is not possible for the hydropower plant to generate the electricity. So that means this point is there, availability of the unit for a part or whole of the scheduled time. So all the unit generally means the hydro unit as well as in the thermal unit, not only the units in a particular thermal power plant. So the availability of the unit must be known while you schedule the time. Change in the generation limits of the units during the committed period. The meaning is that change of the generator limits means it not like this one. It not like alternator is there. It has a physical limits to generate the economically, say 10 megawatt and the 100 megawatt. So if it cannot able to generate lower than 10 megawatt economically, and it cannot generate more than 100 megawatt economically. So change in generation limit doesn't mean that this unit is actually changing. Change in generation limit means here, suppose if the load demand is very high, then suppose every unit generating suppose 80% of their maximum limit. But if the generator, if the load demand suddenly getting down, it is become very, very low, then the every unit must generate, or the committed unit must generate, rather I say, suppose 20% of their maximum limit. So this is called actually the change in the generator limit. Generator limit doesn't means that the physical limits or the whatever be the rated limits are there, it actually changes. No, it's not possible for a particular installation. So limit means how much is actually generating the things. Minimum uptime and downtime of the units. So here one important thing is that this particular term uptime and downtime. What is the meaning of this uptime and downtime? Uptime means, suppose we want to switch on a particular unit. So it's not like a switch that if I just press the switch, instantly the unit is able to generate the electricity and it is connected to the load, and load is enjoying the electricity generated by that unit. No, it's not like the fact in case of the thermal unit as well as hydro unit also. So some times is required because it's a very huge power plant. So some time is required. Generally 1 hour is the time. So some time is required to run the unit in a satisfied speed and to generate the electricity. So this one is called the uptime. Okay. Do you have any idea what is the uptime between the hydro plant and the thermal plant? Which one has the lower uptime? It means which one is able to generate the electricity quickly from the cold stop. Cold stop means everything is stopped. So from the cold stop, which unit or which power plant, hydro or thermal, generating the electricity quickly compared to the other? Any idea? This is when That is very easy. So apply your common sense. So this one is actually the hydro power plant. So in case of hydel power plant, the uptime is much less compared to the this uptime of the thermal power plant. So that's why one line is also there, which is very popular in a markout objective, that for the fluctuating load, which unit is preferred? So for the fluctuating load, always the hydro plant is preferred compared to the thermal power plant, because as the uptime and downtime of the hydro power plant is very quick compared to the thermal power plant, so that means it can easily it can easily cater the fluctuating load. Generally, the thermal power plants are used for the base load, and for the peak load, we use the hydro power plant if the provisions are there. Okay. Now, what is called a downtime, Sam? What is called the downtime? Again, Bitan, what is called the downtime?
স্যার অ্যাকচুয়ালি যখন কোনো থার্মাল পাওয়ার প্ল্যান্ট চলে মানে সেটাকে যখন স্লো ডাউন করতে হয় টারবাইনকে স্লো ডাউন করার জন্য যে টাইমটা নেয়।
Okay. Now, that is very easy. That downtime means when you want to switch off the power plant or a particular units within a power plant, then how much time is required to switch it off. But why we go for this one? Because we don't want to use that particular unit, so we want to switch it off. So why we consider the downtime? If it is take 1 day, if it is take 1 hour, if it is take 1 second, what is the matter of this one? Who's scared? Why you need to study the downtime then? You got my point? If we want to buy a new mobile, so I just want to throw up my old one. So if I throw it to the garbage, if I throw it to the dustbin, if I give it to somebody, who's care? Because I don't want to use that one. I want to buy a new mobile. So whatever be with my old mobile, I doesn't care. So that's why we go for the down. Why you need to study this one? So because bolo,
ঠিক আছে স্যার বলুন।
that because this one is actually not like a throwing a mobile. We are actually not throwing something. Everything is installed. Every unit must be installed in the power plant. In the next hour, we may need that one. Suppose the unit one need to be switched off because the load demand is low, so it can be catered by the unit 2 alone. So we need to switch off the unit 1. But in the next hour, if the load demand is increased suddenly, then we must switch on the unit 1. So that means as I mentioned, that it's not an instantaneous thing, that when we want we switch on the thing, when we want we switch down the thing. If we switch off the unit, to generate the unit again, some time is required. So that's why we must study the downtime also, because once we don't know the downtime, then we cannot calculate the uptime also, because sometimes the unit is required, sometimes the unit is not required. So how frequently the use and not use this unit is there, this is actually depend upon the uptime and downtime. Second one is the response rates of the unit as a function of their output. So obviously this one is a very important factor to solve the unit commit rate problem. Then the reserve capacity needed. Reserve capacity is the extra amount of electricity which must be reserved in every power plant to meet the sudden change in the load demand. So if the load demand increase suddenly, then rather to generate it extra from the reserve, we can give it to you. Or in case of the power failure in the next unit, we can manage this one using the reserve capacity. So that's why this is like a spare tire in our car. So reserve capacity is calculated based on some of the rules are there. Suppose it is the 10% or 5% of the maximum demand. So based on this one, we must generate the reserve capacity, and that is ready to connect to the load. Generally, the reverse capacity is not connected to the load or the bus bar. It is generated, but it is keep reserved. Then the last one, constants on thermal and hydro unit. So what are the constants are there in the thermal and hydro unit? Why you need to schedule that one? This is also in your syllabus. So these are the things. Based on this one, you can think that this is become a very laborious task if we go for the ideal way. So that's why we shifted our solution methodology from the ideal way, and we are not actually going for the ideal solution, rather we go for the heuristic solution. Okay. Come to this
স্যার
one. Yes.
আপটাইম আর ডাউন টাইমের ডেফিনেশনটা স্যার একবার বলে দেবেন স্যার?
Uptime means actually the time required for a particular thermal unit from the coal stop to generate the electricity, or to ready to generate the, or to ready to supply the electricity. That is called the uptime. That means you have a power plant. In the power plant you have a boiler, you have a this water treatment plant, so everything is needed some time from the coal stop. So the time requirement to prepare all these things and to make the superheated stream which is able to generate the, which is able to rotate the turbine as well as the alternator, and the power is ultimately generated. So the time when from the coal stop the power is actually generated and this power is ready to supply to the load center is called the uptime. Okay. Downtime means from, suppose a power plant, suppose a unit is generating the electricity, every very fine, suddenly we need to stop it due to some of the reason, we need to switch it off. So we switch off the boiler, or we switch off the, so many valves are there, so we switch off everything. So the minimum time requirement by that particular unit to go to the cold stop is called the downtime of this thing. Okay. So downtime means the time requirement by a particular unit from the power generation to cold stop, and uptime means from the cold stop to power generation, it is called the uptime and downtime. And obviously the uptime has important, because based on the uptime sudden change can be considered, because when sudden change of the power generations are there, then we must know the uptime of the units, otherwise for a very very fluctuating load we are not able to cater it. But what is the importance of the downtime? Downtime means if we switch off the valve instantly, if we connect all these things, it is not again begin and start generating the power. It again we need to synchronize, again we need to means the parallel operation of this generation. Okay, so again we need to synchronize, the speed must be synchronized, the frequency must be synchronized, the voltage level must be synchronized. So this term is actually required. So that's why the downtime is also important, and the calculation of the downtime is also requirement. Okay. Now come to this one, this heuristic method, or the the more practical method to solve all these things. So these are the points, you can easily go through this one. So one thing I like to mention here, this slide is, this PDF is also available in the classroom. Okay, but the problem is that when I write this PDF in the this, what is the Office 2019, and sometime I need to edit in the college computer which is running actually the Office 2007. So one thing I noticed that when the 2019 Word file is edited here, then what happened? Nothing is changed, but this space is actually gone. So you can see if you go for the what is there in the unit commitment in the class note or in my site, that these n units, it actually, the space is actually gone. So n unit, like the commitment, and these two words are actually accumulated like this one. And that the interesting thing is that in the word they are actually not underlined as a wrong sentence, or the wrong misspelled like this one. So again I need to study all these things and we need to just give the space bar. So I'm not able to complete all this. Total 28 pages are there. I able to complete up to 18 pages, so 10 pages are left. Now I am in Kolkata, so I need to go to the Krishnanagar again today. So after within 2 and 3 days I again re-upload this one. So we're not having much problem, but this space is actually gone, and sometimes the two words are actually merged. Okay, now come to this one, the main problem of the unit commitment. This is called the simple enumerable rate, means how many solution, how many equations are there. This number is actually called, this is called the brute force. Due to this brute force we are not go for the normal solution method because it's a huge. Why? That's a 1 minute, somebody message. No. Okay, so here you see that. So this is the example one. Consider 2 units with fuel cost as follow, and the limits are this is the limit, and 600 megawatt is the load demand. So how we solve the unit commitment problem? So here you see, this is a very simple one. 1 minute, just let me delete all these things. So how to solve this one? So first you see, all these things is written here, means whatever I'll explain, all these things is nicely written here. So go for the solution directly. So this is the table 1. Okay. So table 1, this is one of the unit commitment solution for the example where the load demand is 600 megawatt. So this is unit 1, unit 2. This is the generation of the unit 1, generation of the unit 2. This is the cost function of the unit 1, cost function of the unit 2. This is the total cost function. So hope you understand what is the headings of the table. Okay. Then here you see how many possible, why this is, why the total is 4 possible combinations are there. Because you see that there are 2 units, okay, and either the unit is 1 or the unit is 0. So that means there are 2 possible combinations of the units are there. Either it is switch on or it is switch off. So between the switch on and switch off, there is no other states. So that's why 1 and 0s are there. It's like a digital control. So that means total 2 is there. So how many possible combinations are there? 2 to the power 2. Okay, because 2 units are there. First 2 is the 2 units are there, and each unit having a possible combinations of 2. So that means 2 to the power 2, or total 4 solutions are there. Okay. So in everything, that's why the 2 is come. So you see, these are the 4 possible combinations: 0 0 1 0 0 1 1 1. Okay, that means unit 1 is off. 0 means off, 1 means on. So you can easily understand this one. Now, when both the units are off, then the generation of the first unit is 0, second unit is 0, and there is no cost is involved because they are not generating the electricity. So if they are not generating the electricity, there is no cost. So that's why this one is maybe the one of the combination or one of the sets, but definitely we should not go through this. Why? Because we are not generating the electricity. So why you go for this combination? This is a combination. These are called the combination, or in unit commitment it is called the sets. Set means how many way you can generate the power. So first set 0 0, definitely this is a set, but here the power is not generated. So why you go for this one? So that's why, who can tell me? Let's see, what are the total number of combinations for the two units? What are the total number of combinations?
3.
Huh? কত বলো?
Sir, 8.
8. না, for the
Sir,
2
3 will-
Oh, 3, very good. So it's equal to 3. So generally, the rule is that if there are n number of combinations are there, then it is n to the power 2 minus 1. Okay. So in these notes, or if you go for the books, then you see every time it is written n square minus 1. So this minus 1, why this minus 1 is there? Because we are not actually using the first combination, which is 0 0. Because this one is actually the useless. We are not generating the power, so why we go for this one? That's why the minus 1 terms are there. Okay, come to the next one. When unit 1 is on, okay, when unit 1 is on, unit 2 is off. Then unit 1, how much it is able to generate? Obviously the upper limit, that means 600 megawatt, because it is there. 600 megawatt is given. So when unit 1 is able to generate, then it is generating the maximum 600 megawatt. Unit 2 is 0. How to calculate this cost? 5440. If the unit 1 is generating 600 megawatt, if the unit 1 is generating 600 megawatt, just put here Pg1 equal to 600, Pg1 square equal to 600 square. So if we just solve this F1 or the cost function of the unit 1, taking that the unit 1 is generating 600 megawatt, then this cost is actually coming 5440. এগুলো মনে রাখিস, because you can get one problem from this unit commitment, and you need to do a lot of calculation. So obviously 15 marks are there if it is a normal exam. If it is online exam, then I don't know what will happen. But for the normal exam or for the higher study, because this is the area where too many researcher scope is there, you can generate your own methods using any method, any methodology to solve this one. Okay, that is based on the heuristic method. So practical way how to solve this problem. So that means every solution is entertained, every solution is welcome. So obviously, as the unit 2 is not generating anything, so unit 2 cost is 0 and total cost is 5440. Got it? Come to the third one. When unit 1 is also generating, then it is also generating 600 megawatt. Why? Because the load demand is 600 megawatt. That's why it is generating 600 megawatt. Otherwise, it has a maximum limit of 800 megawatt. So it should not generate 800 megawatt, because as the load demand is only 600 megawatt, so every power plant responsibility of the power plant to generate the 600 megawatt. If it is possible alone, either otherwise combine in a combined way. Again, if we solve the F2, just take the PG2 equal to 600, we are getting this one, 5060. So this cost is involved. Okay. And the last one, if all the units are switch on, then how to solve this one? How to find out this one? The generation of the PG1 and PG2? Who can able to tell me?
So economic dispatch methods.
Very good. Correct answer. So when, as I mentioned, when more than one units are contributing or committed to generate the load demand, then we must go for the economic load dispatch criteria based on the equal incremental cost basis. And after solution, we get that PG1 is generating 233.33 megawatt and PG2 generating this one. And if we solve the PG1 and PG2, then this amount of currency is coming, or the cost is coming. And if we add them together, we'll get this one. So here you see that which one is most economical?
Third one.
You see, the third one is the most economical, because for the first one means I actually not consider this one. So the first one is actually 5440 cost is involved. Second one 5060, and third one is 5123. So you see that sometimes the economical generation not gives us the most economic, the ultimate economy. It is gives us the ultimate economy when all the units must generate. But sometime if we switch up some of the units, then we can save some of our money. Okay. So this is one of the table. Then come to the second table where the load demand is 800 megawatt. Okay. So if the load demand is 800 megawatt, let's see what will happen. First, we just skip this one. Same, not generating anything, nothing, no problems are there. Second one is unit 1 is on, unit 2 is off. Second combination. So this is called infeasible. Why? Because the maximum generating capacity of the unit 1 is 600 megawatt. And here the load demand is 800 megawatt. So it is not possible for the unit 1 to generate this 800 megawatt alone. So we again go for this one. This is the due to the limitation. Come to the third one, when unit 2 is alone generating, so it can generate 800 megawatt now, because 800 is the load demand. And if you just solve the F2, putting the PG2 as 800, we are getting this one, 4920. And this is the total, 6900. So this is the cost involved. And when both the units are switched on, then we go for the equal incremental cost basis. And here you see the generation is 500 and 300 as 300 and 500. And this is the total cost 6760. So here you see that if the load demand is 800 megawatt, then committed both the units are the economical way. Okay. So based on this one, we just prepared a table. So here you see it is starting from 400 and it is go up to 1200. You can go for the 75 megawatt also, but it is impractical to go for this below unit. So if we go for the 400, then you see that up to 600 megawatt, only the unit 2 will commit. Here you see it is 1, it is also 1, and this one is also 1. 1 means the unit 1 is committed. In all the case, the unit 1 is 0. So that means if the load demand is up to 600 megawatt, 1 minute, is there any notification? What are the notifications? So if the load demand is up to 600 megawatt, then only the unit 2 will commit. It gives us the most economical solution. And if the load demand is more than 600, whatever be the maximum demand, then both the units are committed. You see both 1 1s are there. So if the load demand is more than
স্যার আপনার কথা শোনা যাচ্ছে না।
স্যার আপনার ভয়েস শোনা যাচ্ছে না স্যার।
এক মিনিট ওয়েট কর hello now can you hear me
শোনা
hello
যাচ্ছে স্যার, হ্যাঁ।
okay okay so from this table table 1 and table 2 means if the load demand is 600 megawatt and if the load demand is 800 megawatt, then we conclude this one that if the load demand is up to 600 megawatt, then only the unit 2 will commit to generate the load demand. But if the load demand is more than 600 megawatt, then unit 1 as well as unit 2 are committed to generate the load demand. So this is actually the solution. If the load demand is less than equal to 600 megawatt, commit only unit 2, and above 700 megawatt, commit both units. Or you can say above 600 megawatt actually rather. So above 600 megawatt, commit both the units. So this is actually the solution of the unit commitment problem. Got it?
Yes, sir.
ইয়েস স্যার।
Is this critical? Is this complicated? Up to this table, just drawing these two table, everything is written here. Means how the table is drawn, it is written here. So that means for the two variable or the 2 units power plant, this is actually the solution. Is it complicated?
No, sir.
No. That's the thing I want to answer. So why this thing is written for the 2 unit power plant, the number of equation is 2.82 into 10 to the power 11. Why it is written? Because this amount of equations are not showing here. This is very easy. It is starting from this one, means if we go for the 600 megawatt, then from the table it is clear that unit 2 will commit. If it is 800 megawatt, both the units are commit. So based on this one, we just make our decision, or we just solve the unit commitment problem. But the hidden thing is that here, how do we commit the units for a load demand of 600 megawatt? But how this means how many times the 600 megawatt is persist? Is this the constant load demand for the whole of the day? So obviously not. This 600 megawatt is not the load demand throughout the day. It may be for 1 hour or for 2 hours. So every time it is changing. Okay, in every hour or in every second the load demand is changing. So that means how many times we can able to solve this one. This is just the for a particular instant. This solution is for a particular instant when the load demand is either the 600 megawatt or the 800 megawatt. So this one is actually the conclusion that if this load demand is there, then we can go for this one. But how many times the load demand is actually changing? So that's why unit commitment is a vast problem. Okay. Here you see, if the number of units are n, then this one is actually the solution. How this number is actually coming. If the number of units are n, then how many possible combinations are there? As I mentioned, it's equal to 2 to the power n minus 1. Sorry, it's equal to 2 to the power n, not n to the power 2. 2 to the power n minus 1. Because 2 are the possible combination, either 1 or 0. So this 1 or 0 means total number of possible combinations are 2. And n is the number of units or the number of variations. So that means total variation is 2 to the power n minus 1. And this minus 1 is due to the first one we are not actually considered. And what is this k? K is the number of time period. Okay, so as the K is the number of time period, and here you see, if we go for the unit commitment solution for the 24 hours, means for a one day, then it's become K become 24. Then the for the double unit, the number of equation become this, or the number of possible subsets become this one. Subset means one is generating, two is not generating. This is actually called the set. Which one is generating, which one is not generating, like this one. For the 3, you can 2 to the power 3 minus 1 into to the power 24. So it's coming like this one. So now we call to the constants in the unit commitment problem. So what are the constants? First is called the spinning reserve. What is the spinning reserve? So here you see different types of means uh, definitions are there of the spinning reserve. So first one by Harris and Kirby, they actually declared the spinning reserve as generators online synchronized to the grid that can increase output immediately in response to a major outage and can reach full capacity within 10 minutes. So this is actually the definition suggested by these two scientists. So that means units are not shut down. Units are online. They are actually generating the power. Okay. But this power is not utilized anywhere. This power is not connected anywhere. So they are ready to generate the power. They are synchronized to the grid. And if the power demand is suddenly increased within this 10 minutes, they are ready to supply the power. Okay. So this power is actually called the spinning reserve. Another, this British Electricity International here. So here you see that there is no gap between the Electricity International. So this thing I need to just check. So by them, the definition is that the additional output which a part loaded generator plant is able to supply and sustain within 5 minutes. So generally the same type of definitions are there, only they are suggested by 10 minutes, they are suggested by 5 minutes. Wood and Uhlenberg, this book is also good. Okay, this a book by Power Generation Economics by Wood and Uhlenberg is also very good books. They suggested the definition, the total synchronized capacity minus the load and the losses. This is actually the basic definition of what is called a reserve. They actually not go for the time period, means how quickly this power is utilized by the load. They actually just give the definitions of the what is called the reserve. So reserve means your capacity minus the load and losses. Okay, how much you are able to generate and how much you are able to give. So the difference between these things is called the reserve capacity. And this is actually the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, NERC. They suggested the definition, unloaded generation. Unloaded means actually they are actually not connected to the load. That's why it's called unloaded. Unloaded generation that is synchronized and ready to serve additional demand. Okay. Same type of definition, only the time period is not mentioned here. But obviously the spinning reserve, the time period must mention. And this spinning reserve means it's very quickly, this power must be utilized when the load demands are used. So our board definition would be the unused capacity which can be activated on decision by the system operator and which is provided by generator synchronized to the grid and capable of supplying active power. So this is actually the definitions of the spinning reserve. Okay. This is actually the main thing. Then the spinning reserve equal to sum of the capacity of all the units synchronized at a time minus the load plus losses in the synchronized unit. So many things are there. Another important thing is that what is called the negative spinning reserve. This is actually the positive spinning reserve. Okay, but another thing is the important thing is that there are some negative spinning reserve also. Now, what is the meaning of this negative reserve? Okay. What is the meaning of this negative reserve? Negative reserve means, suppose, okay, suppose your demand was 1500 megawatt. Okay. So obviously, keeping something in reserve, you are actually generating the electricity which is fulfilled by the 1500 megawatt of demand. Very good. Everything is oh. Okay. Now suddenly, due to the switch off of the some of the load portion, the demand become 500 megawatt. Then what you need to do? Suddenly the demand is fall down to 500 megawatt. Then what do you need to do? Should we generate this one or should we generate this one?
500 megawatt.
So obviously you need to generate the 500 megawatt. So how much generation you cut off switched suddenly? 1000 megawatt. Okay. So is it possible for your system to cut off 1000 megawatt instantly? So this thing is called the negative spinning reserve. Because why I'm talking this one? What is the problem related to this one? If you study the machine properly, then I think you are able to answer this one. Suppose you are generating something, suddenly you decrease your generator. What is the problem? আমার তো টাকা সেভই হবে না? Problem is that when you want to switch up something without changing the boiler, then what happened? The speed tends to increase. The speed of the alternator tends to increase due to the sudden decrease of the huge portion of the load demand. And if we allow this situation, then what happened? It will actually changes the frequency of the system. Because if the speed will tend to increase, then it will increase the frequency, which is not permitted. So that's why suddenly from a particular generation, we are not able to decrease all these things. So suddenly from a particular generation, we are not decrease or cut off huge portion of the generation. So the maximum amount of generation suddenly we decrease from the stable generation is called the negative spinning reserve. Got it? What is the difference between the positive spinning reserve and negative spinning reserve? So this is the thing. So here in this chapter, the main thing, this is a theoretical chapter. You may get one problem. This problem is obvious. This problem is interesting part, but this boring theoretical, it doesn't need to study all these things. You need to know the concept of this thing. Everything is written here. So many books are there. So many internet videos are also there. So they are actually describing this thing by their own way. But the concept, if you just know the concept, what is the meaning of this term, using your own language in the exam time, you can easily write all these things. Got it? This is the main aim of this first topic of this chapter. This is basically all these things are the theoretical things. So you just need to know what is the meaning of what is called the spinning reserve, what is called the positive spinning reserve, what is called the negative spinning reserve, all these things. And I'm just telling you why these reasons are there. Why sometime if we just switch up our generation, why you need to worry about this thing? Because suddenly if we switch up the generation, major portion of the generation, then the alternator tend to increase its speed, and if the speed is increased, then the synchronize is getting damaged and the system frequency is try to increase. This will create a much more problem. That's why we are not able to switch off as much as you want from the system when it is generating something. So this is called the negative spinning reserve. Then their spinning reserve formulas are also there. This is all this thing you can easily study. I'm just telling you the concept. Let's see this one. This is a good example that why the spinning reserve sometimes is important. Apart from the spinning reserve, some limitations are also there. This is called this network constants. Why this thing is called the network constant? Just gone up quickly. So here you see there are two interconnected areas. Okay, so due to the limitation of the interconnected lines, tie lines, whatever be the spinning reserves are there, we must not satisfy. Let's see after this one you have a clear idea what I'm trying to say. So this is the unit 1, this is the this is the area 1, and this is the area 2. Okay, in this area 1 there are 2 units, 1 and 2, and here there are 2 units, 3 units, 3, 4 and 5, and this is actually the characteristics of the unit. Unit capacity for the unit 1, 100 megawatt, 1000 megawatt, 500 megawatt, 800 megawatt, 500 megawatt, 600 megawatt. These are maximum generating capacity of these units. And here the unit is actually generating, the output is 920, 310, 700, 240, 240, like this one. This one is actually the output of the unit. This one is the maximum limits or the ratings. Then the area wise generation. So the area wise generation means in area 1 there are two units, 1 and 2. So if you just add this 1 and 2, then it is coming 1230, 1 plus 2. And if you just add the 3, 4 and 5, which is situated in the area 2, then it is coming 1160. Okay. Then this is the spinning reserve. How much reserves are there in unit 1? So in unit 1, for the unit 1 in area 1, the spinning reserve is 800 megawatt. 120, 190 megawatts are there for the unit 2, and these are the reserve capacity for the area 2 units, unit 3, 4 and 5. Area load is 1090 and area load is 1330. So here you see that the area load for the area 1, it is equal to 1090, but the area generation is 1230. So that means they are actually generating more than their load demand for the area 1. That's why interchange power means the power which is actually coming from the area 1 to area 2, this is equal to 140 megawatt, because this 1230 minus 1090, it gives us 140. So this 140 megawatt power, this is actually the output power, because this is the excess power in the area 1. So this power must go to the area 2. That's why this is called the output power. And here you see this is a shortage of the generations are there. Here the load demand is 1300 megawatt, and here the generation is 1160 megawatt. So that's it. 140 megawatt is the incoming power for the area 2. Okay. Now, assuming a maximum of 450 megawatt can be interchanged via the tie line. This is one important factor, because tie line is not this transmission line. So whatever be the characteristics of the transmission lines are there, tie line doesn't have the same characteristic. It is not able to carry the current which is supposed to carry by the transmission line, because the tie line is actually for the reliability, is the extra line connected between the units. The distance is also small, so that means the width and the number of wires, number of starts in the tie lines is not same as the transmission line. Transmission lines are designed to carry the huge amounts of load, but generally in the tie line they are not generating to carry the electricity. They are not actually transmit of the power. They are not designed to do this thing. They are actually connected between the line for to use it in the emergency situation. So assume a maximum of 450 megawatt can be interchanged via the tie line. What can we figure out about the spinning reserve? Okay, so this spinning reserve, what is the figure out? So solution, you see that. Acha, when the reserve capacity is required, when it is required. Suppose you save 100 rupees per 100 rupees, I save say 1000 rupees, somebody says say 5000 rupees. So when the saved rupees is required, we are not saving the rupees, or we are not saving the currency
For a
to use
emergency,
for a
emergency purpose.
very good emergency purpose. So generally we are not saving the money to use it in the next day. Suppose today I save 100 rupees. So I not save the 100 rupees for spend it in the next day or tomorrow. I saved it for the emergency purpose. When it is required, emergency situation arrived, when the money is required, then due to this situation, I saved this money. So based on this one, case 1. Okay. So suppose area 2 losses its largest generator. So why this thing is largest? Because this gives us the most emergency situation. Okay. So suppose area 2 losses its largest generator. Largest generator ke chiro area 2 te this one, unit 3, because its generating capacity is 800 megawatt. So unit 3. So we increase the generation of the other two units to their maximum limit. So obviously this we can able to do. if one unit is able to fail in a particular area to meet the load demand, first what we need to do, we can increase the other units to their maximum limits. What is the maximum limit? They are actually generating the unit 4 and 5. They are actually generating 240 megawatt, but their maximum limit is 500 megawatt. Unit 5 is actually generating 220 megawatt only, but they can able to generate up to 600 megawatt. So immediately when some emergency situation arises due to the shutdown of the unit 3, we switch on from this generator to this generation of unit 4 and unit 5. Okay. So this gives a total generation of 500 plus 600, 1100 megawatt. Okay. Obviously, if you just add them together, 500 and 600, it's coming the 1100 megawatt. So another 200 megawatt can be borrowed from area 1 reserve. Why? Because here you see this area load is, so this area load is 1300. Okay, so that means 1300 minus this 100, so it's become how much? 200, 201. So why it is written 210? Oh, 1 minute. So this one is 1300. It's coming 220. It's coming 220. Okay. So area load is this one 1300. So we are actually able to generate the 1100 megawatt. So another 220 megawatt can be borrowed from area 1 reserve. Okay. Now come to the case 2. Suppose area 1 losses his largest generation. So if area 1 losses his largest generation, that means unit 1, then we increase the generation of the unit 2 to its maximum capacity, obviously, and maximum capacity is 500 megawatt. It is actually generating 310 megawatt, but we can switch it on to generate the 500 megawatt when it is required. So the area needs, here you see, 1090 is the load, area load. So this 1090 minus 500, so 590 megawatt. So while area 2 has a spinning reserve of 740 megawatt. Why? So if you just add these things together, so this is actually the spinning reserve of the area 2, which is equal to 740 megawatt. But area 1 required 590 megawatt. So obviously it is within the limit, but we are not able to generate this one because the tie line has a limit of 450 megawatt, which will still leave area 1 a shortage of generation to meet the load demand. Got it? So the conclusion is that this is the network constant, that's why we call. So thus, even through the system has enough reserve, the load demand cannot be met if area 1 in unit 1 in area 1 lost. The only way to circumvent this problem would be the commit some more unit in area 1. Okay. This one is the solution. So that means here you see two units are there, unit 1 and area 1 and area 2, and here unit 1 2 are situated in area 1 and unit 3 4 and 5 are situated in area 2. But you see, though there are much reserves are there. Okay, 1 minute, let me clear the slide first. So here you see there are much more reserves, 740, or what is the value? It's equal to 740. So 740 megawatt reserves are there in unit area 2, and the requirement is that only 590 megawatt. So this 590 megawatt during the emergency condition, it should be borrowed from area 2 to area 1. But due to the tie line limits, 450 megawatt, some portion of the area 1 is not getting the electricity due to this emergency failure. So that means you see that only the spinning reserve is not fulfill the situation. So based on this one, so many other constants are also there. That's why these all constants make the problem of the unit commitment is a much more laborious job. Okay. Then next one is called the thermal unit constants. So thermal unit constant means here you can need to study the two things. One is called the minimum uptime and one is called the minimum downtime. What is the meaning of this minimum uptime and minimum downtime? Minimum uptime means, am I connected?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So minimum uptime means, suppose in a particular power plant, there are 3 units. And after the solution of the unit commitment problem, you find out that the unit 1 must be switched on for 1 hour initially. Then in the next 1 hour, the unit 1 and unit 3 should switch on. Then in the next hour, unit 2 and 3 should be switched on. Now, as the solution gives us that unit 1 must be switched on for 1 hour. Okay. So after this 1 hour, what do we need to do? After the 1 hour, should we need to switch it off, or should we put it in the banking mode? This is a new term, banking mode. I will come to this one later. That after this one, after the 1 hour time, what should we do? So that means when we switch on some of the units in the power plant, we are not supposed to switch on for few minutes, because that will never gives us the economy. So there is some minimum time requirement is there, and within this minimum time, the unit must be switched on and it must be connected to the load. So this unit, this time, minimum time is called the uptime. Uptime means it is not the starting time. It means that after started up fully, how much time it is able to generate the electricity and how much time it is able to connect to the load. So this time is called the uptime. As this is a big, very vast things, mechanical things are there. So many mechanical things are there. So many inertias are also there. So that means we cannot switch it on instantly. So that means when we switch it on, then we need to run it. We need to allow to generate the electricity for a particular time. And this minimum time is called the uptime. Similarly, the minimum downtime is also there. Downtime means when some time we need to decommit it. Decommitted means when you need to shut down some of the plants based on the load requirement. So when you need to shut down some of the plant, we should not shut down it for few minutes. We have a minimum time, and within this time we allow the plant to remain cool. After this time, we may again go for the generation, or we need to start the plant again. But before that time, we should not switch it on. So this is called the downtime. Downtime is when we decommitted some of the units in a particular area, at least sometime we need to allow the plant to cool down. And this is called the minimum downtime. And when you committed some of the units in a power plant, we allow the unit to remain connected or remain generated the electricity for a particular time, and this is called the uptime. This is the thermal unit constants, because this thermal term is very, very much related to the thermal power plant. Heat is required and we cannot produce the heat instantly. So that means some time is required to produce the heat, some time is required to cool down the heat. So that's why some time is required, and based on this one, we have two definition. One is called the minimum uptime and another is called the minimum downtime. Here you heard one term which is called the banking. Now, what is this term banking? There is another great example is also there. Should we start this banking, because this may be the last topic? Should I go for this one, or in the next day I'll start this? What is the meaning of this banking?
Next day is better.
নেক্সট ডে বেটার, ঠিক আছে। শুধু আমি একটা ব্যাংকিং একটা শুধু জাস্ট আইডিয়া দিয়ে দিই, হোয়াট ইজ দ্য মিনিং অফ দিস ব্যাংকিং। ইন দ্য নেক্সট ডে উইল গো ফর দিস ওয়ান, টোটাল দিস ওয়ান। It means that here you see this is a load duration curve. From 9 p.m. up to Bikel 5 p.m. this curve is drawn, and this is the load duration curve. And here you see this is the two requirement. One is the megawatt one. This is one of the load requirement. The numerical value is not given. It is only called the megawatt one. And next one is the megawatt two. And based on this curve, you see when the load demand is less than this megawatt one, when it is less than the megawatt one, then only the unit one is commits. Only the unit one able to meet the total load demand. So everything is economical. When it is more than megawatt one but less than megawatt two, then unit one and two should commit. And when it is more than megawatt 2, the load demand, then unit 1, 2, 3 all should commit. Commit means all should generate. So based on this one, so here you see at 12 p.m. Okay, this is actually the 12 p.m. Which unit is running at 12 p.m.? Or if it is 12-1, if it is 12-1, then what are the units generating, or what are the units committed to generate the power?
Sir, only unit 1.
That's a very good answer. So just start it from the beginning. At 9 p.m., how much units are committed? 9 a.m.
3 unit.
3 units must run. Okay, all the 3 units must run. At 10 a.m., what are the unit must shut down?
Number
One
three.
unit, the third unit.
Unit number 3, because you see at 10 p.m. the requirement is less than the megawatt 2 but more than megawatt 1. So unit 1 and 2 is satisfying to is able to generate the load demand. So unit 3 should be shut down. Now, should unit 3 is shut down or should unit 3 in the banking mode? Banking mode means here the boiler is actually disconnected from the main turbine, but the heating of the boiler is continue. So that when it is need to reconnect the unit in the load center again or in the this grid again, then we doesn't need to waste our time to produce the heat from the beginning, because boiler is already heated up, superheated steam is already produced. We just need to connect the valve to the turbine. So instantly, not instantly obviously, so within 10 minutes or within 30 minutes the turbine is able to produce the electricity. So that procedure is called the banking. Okay, here it is written. So where the banking is written, so this one is called the banking. So the boiler is isolated from the steam system at no load and keep at the system operating pressure and temperature. So obviously you know that this stream must maintain a pressure as well as a temperature. So when the boiler is isolated, boiler is not connected to the turbine, but this system operating pressure and temperature is maintained by intermittent heating, because continuous heating is not required obviously, because the steam is the loss of the heat chances are very less, it is isolated. So that's why it is heated by intermittent heat firing of either by igniters means small heaters, or by the main boiler. So this stage is called the banking. So the difference between the banking and isolated, banking and shutdown means everything is shut down. Okay, we are not actually heating the boiler, so very quickly it is cooled down because so many cooling systems are also there. And banking means we are actually isolating the boiler from the main system, and but keep the temperature and pressure same, which it is required by the system, so that during the emergency or when it is required, quickly we can reconnect the boiler to rotate the turbine. So that stage is called the banking. Now, should I bank the unit 3 at 10 a.m. or should I switch it off? Similarly, at this 11 a.m., so you see at 11 a.m., not 11 a.m., this one, at 12 noon, we need to switch off the unit 2. So should I use the term switch it off or should I use the term bank the unit 2? So obviously some methods are there, and based on this method, this thing is drawn. So here you see, here the total time duration is there from 9 to evening PM, 5 PM, and the units are also there when the units one is on. Unit one is actually the supplying the base load, so it should be on for all the time. Unit two, how much time the unit? Oh, that should be unit two. Okay. So how much time the unit 2 is on? So here you see unit 2 is on all the time, but from 12 to 4 it is on, but it is in the banking mode. Means it is the boiler is actually isolated. Okay. And how many times the unit 3 is actually committed from the total time period? So initially it is on, then it is off. Why it is off? Why not it is bank mode? So we'll discuss in the next day. Then it is off continuously, then it is on. So why it is shut down? Why the unit 2 is in the bank mode? Why not it is shut down? It is in the bank mode. All these things will be discussed in the next day. After that, we will go for the this unit commitment solution. Okay. So first one is the priority list method, and this one is easy to understand. This is my last paragraph. After that, I want to close the class. Suppose I want to I want to organize the events. Okay. So to organize the event, I need one web developer to design the web page. I need one graphics designer to generate the to design the certificates. I need a person who have a very good handwriting, cursive handwriting, to write inside this one, the certificates. Again, I need a managerial person who can manage all these things. I need a person who have a very good contacts about the hospitality near the area, so that the guest can arrange all these things. So many people I need based on the characteristics. Okay. Now, suppose I have a very good relation with the Bitan. So, but I know that Bitan doesn't have any knowledge with the web designer. So, but as I have a very good relation with the Bitan, so I just hired the Bitan and tell him to just design a web from. Another, suppose I have a very good relation with the Bikramjit. Okay, and I know that Bikramjit doesn't have any relation with the nearby hotels and all these things to arrange the guest, but I hire it because as I have a priority, as I have a very good contact. So without the proper person, I actually choose according to my choice, and I'm not thinking about the quality of this thing. So this one is actually called priority list method. Okay, this one you may have seen it in the college, obviously, during the various events. So sometimes you see that the person which is not suitable in a particular position, they are actually hired in this particular for this particular position. This is due to the priority, and sometimes the contacts also. But this one is also applicable in the power system. This is actually called priority list method. Here, the actual quality is not seen, rather the priority is seen. Okay. But as is this good or bad?
So not good.
Not good, obviously. But this, but suppose Bikramjit has a special characteristic. Why? Because this good contact with me, this one is a particular quality of the Bikramjit. Okay. Why these peoples are hired? Why they doesn't have any particular quality? I'm saying particular quality, not all the qualities. They say there doesn't have any particular quality, but they are actually hiring for this particular position. Why? Because they have a good contact, and this is their quality. This good contact is also a very quality. Maintaining a contact, maintaining a relation with the persons. This is also a good quality. Okay. So this is called the priority list method, and we will solve one problem based on the priority list. Then after that, as you see, this one is not good, so that's why we call the dynamic programming method. So this one is the ultimate solution of the unit commitment problem. This is called the dynamic programming method. So these two things are remaining apart from some of the constant ideal constants and thermal constant like this one. So in the next we try to go for this one. Okay.